You are on with y'all 106.7. How we doing today, Porter?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's truly an honor to be talking to you. I don't know if you're familiar with y'all 106.7, but we're fairly new. We just launched last June, and we play the best country from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So we play a lot of Little Texas.
Cool. The best country. I like it.
Yes, sir. And you're a founding member
Awesome.
and lead guitarist of the multi-platinum Grammy-nominated vocal band, Little
Yes.
Texas. You know, for the past 20 years, you've been both guitarist, lead vocalist, and you've been splitting your time between the road and the writing room. And so I want to know what's your favorite part of being on the road versus what's your favorite part of being home and in the writing room.
The way that we tour now, that we've done these 20 years, we'd taken a break in 98 and got back together in 2004. So that's when I started singing, and we've been back since. And our drummer loves to say that we get to be family men during the week and raise kids and live in places like Franklin, Brentwood, and Mount Juliet and stuff, and just enjoy our homes and lawnmowers. And then on the weekend, we get to be rock stars. So the way that we tour, in quotation marks, really isn't like what we did in the day when we were touring. You know, we had 180 shows for 4 years straight back then. So really, it's kind of seasonal the way we do it, and we end up not really working in November, December, January, and February. So I do write a lot. I have people come to the house. I have a little Pro Tools studio in the basement, and so I do kind of put more my music, making music hat on, and then in the summer we'll go out on weekends. So
Yeah.
it really is the best of both worlds.
So you do a little production as well. You got the Pro Tools going on.
I do. I'm kind of bad at it. All my friends would laugh. I'm not that great at Pro Tools, but I do have it. But I rely on the knowledge of my friends a lot.
It's a lot.
And even my daughter is a young fledgling artist. She just turned 23, and she does kind of indie pop kind of stuff. And I help, but I just don't have that producer chops. I play guitar first, write and sing, and then that stuff is a distant, means to an end.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes people overcomplicate it with production anyway. There's nothing like writing a song with just your guitar and the lyrics.
Yeah, and that's kind of like on my singer-songwriter album that I did last year. That's my approach to it. It's just the option anxiety to me is part of why I don't think I'm that good at it. And like with my daughter's stuff, it's just a world I don't really understand. So I do understand putting drums, bass, guitars, and a steel guitar in a room and recording that, and then singing on top of it. So I think that's some of my Texas roots too. Not a lot of enhancement. I really don't. I don't love music that's overproduced. So
Well, that's pretty cool that your daughter's in the industry as well. She obviously grew up, watching Dad. What is her name? Her artist name?
Lauren Howell.
Lauren Howell. So
she's on Spotify and stuff. That we're just kind of putting out whatever she does at this point. Kind of working on the sound and
Well, that's very cool. So who did you grow up listening to? Who were your musical influences? Did you grow up in a musical family?
My family, my dad knew 3 or 4 chords. He'd have to ask me about minor chords till the day he passed away a few years ago. He grew up listening to the usual, classic country and was a huge fan of all that. So I was exposed to 3 chords and the truth from him. Like he loved Roger Miller, early Buck Owens. Like he had Willie Nelson records way before the Outlaw years, So we had that stack of records. My mom was more, she was 11 years younger than my dad, so she was more into like anything from late 60s folk and pop to the 70s mainstream pop rock, like Simon & Garfunkel, Rod Stewart, Steve Miller, kind of soft rock, Eagles. She was my introduction to them. So between the two, I have kind of this country and then into that kind of pop rock, 70s classic rock stuff. And then I started playing guitar when I was 13 and just went into heavy stuff. Anything from Led Zeppelin, Rush, ZZ Top, Van Halen, You know, I was just the right age, kiss for all that.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So out of all the songs that you've written, is there one that, holds a lot of weight to you? Which one is most significant to you and why?
From a song standpoint, probably What Might Have Been. It's just been a pleasure,
a good one,
and blessing to be part of that, and people love it. And we were talking about love interest, but people relate to it on such a bigger scope. They always will come up to us about losing loved ones, and just their storyline and what might have been.
Mm-hmm.
Most grateful for a hit of a lifetime would be God Bless Texas. We call it the Forrest Gump of the songs that we've been part of, because it's led us to meet the President of the United States again, and just it's found its way onto two HBO, big series and all that kind of stuff. It just keeps on giving.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I think a lot of this, the songs from that time period, as I was saying, y'all 106.7, we play a lot of 90s country. And why do you think that 90s country is such an iconic era? It's still today the most played area of country music on Spotify, on the radio. And what do you think about it that makes it so significant?
It was a perfect storm. We could get into analyzing the whole culture that was going on, or just say that it hit a stride. They're great songs. I always think of the song Remembers When. I mean, geez, there were just really good songs sung by really honest, good singers and produced by people who had gotten really good at finding the best material, And then it comes along at a time when rap had taken music, a certain way and had a certain following, and then grunge came along and had the same sort of, it's great music in both. I'm not running it down at all, but it left a kind of hole for just straightforward songs.
Mm-hmm.
Popular music had gone to extremes, I think, which are very cool, and they're both iconic and still around. But there was a glut. I remember my sister's 6.5 years younger than me, so she was in college when we hit, and she said, I'm in Austin. She said, it's amazing my friends and I listen to mainstream country, which wouldn't have happened 10 years before. Mm-hmm. They'd have been into more rock and disco or whatever, mm-hmm. but not country music. All of a sudden it was just popular. It was the thing to like, go dance to, hang out, go to those bars,
Mm-hmm. So what's new with you? What's new with Little Texas? What does 2024 look like for you?
Well, it's Little Texas business as usual. Like I said earlier, we've been touring for 20 years, and that's just kind of what we do with it. There's not music in the pipeline yet. We're always on the bus talking about it, but just another good, solid year already booked of touring. And musically, I already talked about that too, kind of. It's working with Lauren. I'm going to make my second singer-songwriter thing here sometime. I keep putting it off. Maybe this summer we'll start cutting some stuff. But I have about 7 to 10 songs I really like that I think are a good follow-up for the first one. So,
well, that's exciting. We can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
So what does an ideal day off look for you when you're not touring, when you're not writing? How do you just unwind?
That's an interesting question for me. And if Michelle, my girlfriend who helps manage me and my daughter and stuff, well, here she roll her eyes for me saying this, but I have a weird hobby. In COVID, in 2020, I hooked into jumping a motorcycle toy, not me. I'm not even going to get on a bicycle or a unicycle I used to ride. But anyway, it's people, Gen Xers will know exactly what I'm talking about. It came out in 1974. It's an Evel Knievel stunt cycle. They reissued it in 2020. Very few people know that. And I hooked into jumping it. And I have 80,000 followers and counting on Instagram and almost 60,000 on TikTok. And they know me on Facebook. I've been featured on Sammy Hagar's website and blah, 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 on and on. So
wow.
I go out and I come up with these ideas for this little cycle. And it's not just filming it and doing it. I've pushed it to where most Gen Xers see it and say, no way, that's CGI. You can't do that with that. I said, well, you got to be almost 60, man. You got to get a hold of it and get revenge on it as an adult, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a lifelong fisherman, and I go out on the area lakes and rivers. But my side hustle now is jumping Evel Knievel motorcycles. It takes my mind off of everything else.
I bet it does. What is that TikTok handle so people can go follow you?
On my social media, Facebook, Instagram is my favorite right now. Is Porter's Evil Jumps.
Porter's Evil Jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's got to be an adrenaline rush there.
Michelle is rolling her eyes. It really is. It's a adrenaline thing, and I don't have to risk any, life or limb to think of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, I figured out how to use a drill after like 3 years of people saying, use a drill. All these guys are like, that's nothing. Use a drill on the handle thingy. So finally, with the help of a bus driver and one of my good friends, co-conspirators with Evil, we figured out how to use a drill, and recently I tried to jump over my house.
Oh my gosh.
We're landing near 60 feet with one, which is over 600 feet square scale. So that's how far this has gotten. It's kind of time to kind of take a deep breath with that too and let it lie for a while. But it really uses everything I've used in music for 40 years can be applied to this.
Uh-huh. That's funny. I'm looking at your Instagram now. I don't think I've seen anything like that. That's funny.
The comments, there's people from my generation just saying, my God, they'll say hilarious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the best thing ever. This is the reason for the internet. So that alone is part of my entertainment thing. Man, hey, I'm getting great response, and, I'm selling more records Jumping Evil than we have in 30 years. So,
well, like you said, you're an artist, you're a creator, you're an innovator. It's just part of who you are.
That's right. I wake up at 4 in the morning. I wonder if you put that thing on a drill, could I clear the house? And just always being creative and pushing it.
I love that. Well, Porter, what advice would you give someone who's moving to Nashville to pursue their dream in songwriting? Or what advice would you give to your younger self even?
Golly, the younger self part of that question opens up the fact that it's changed so much. I recently heard Vince Gill answer this question by saying, I don't know what to tell you, because what I was faced with is very different from what you were faced with. We didn't have the internet. This town has changed. Record labels have changed drastically, So I don't mean to say, well, you're on your own, kid. But one of the things that I did was go to Belmont. And I've been giving that advice for years. If you can get to a place where it's happening, it just enlightens you so much faster than if you're not. But now there's so much access to advice, and you get to hear Vince Gill talk, and, the internet has changed everything. But for me, it was getting here from Texas and meeting people the first day I was at Belmont that I had no idea would wind up being A&R at Warner Brothers later.
Mm-hmm.
The networking part. As far as my daughter, she went to New York and did something similar. She went to a school called AMDA for musical theater, and just thinking about moving back because she knows more people in New York trying to do this than she does here.
Mm-hmm.
So the networking of a school like that and a place to get can be very important. The one thing I think is important now, too, is if you are the kind of musician or artist who can find your own voice, it's open again to do that. We've been listening. We went to see Sierra Farrell at the Opry last week and saw her on TV this morning. And just her journey is unreal, But there's an honesty to what she's doing, that she's not playing music business. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Finding songs from outside writers, doing it the 615 way, finding a record deal. That I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just there's opportunity through the wide open internet to be yourself. And if you're one of the lucky talented who can find their own voice, write things from your own experience and your own artistry, you can be an artist. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Blah blah blah.
No, yeah.
That's kind of my daughter's reason for doing it. She's not doing it just because she wants to be a singer. She really wanted to do musical theater, and while she was in New York, she started writing these really clueful songs about her life, about boys or like their own or whatever, just real honest art. And I'm like, just keep doing that. I'm not going to steer you in any direction. Just follow your muse, because that to me is the only thing that's going to appeal to people for her, specifically. So.
Oh, absolutely. An audience connects with that honesty. And I think that we touched on that earlier, with What Might Have Been and those huge songs like that. The listener can tell when the lyrics are honest. And that's something we don't see a lot of these days. So I think authenticity is great. I think you hit the nail on the head right there.
From the minute we released What Might Have Been, I got a What Might Have Been. And I think about it every other day. Just that was a subject matter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And 30-something years later, people still relate to that thought, So, yep.
Well, thank you.
It can be done. I mean, God Bless Texas was written because there's lots of pretty girls in Texas. There's nothing wrong with that either. We're a very commercial band, and I'm very proud of that. We figured it out, how to be commercial and play the game. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Back then, I didn't have a sense of my own that I wanted to say. I was too young, and that's fine too. I got to be part of a Warner Brothers band that's multi-platinum. But as I get older, I'm more about looking around. My dad died, so I wrote a song called "Thought About You Today." Look around Nashville, and it's changed so much. I wrote a song called "This Town Was." It's kind of a love song to the '90s vibe of Nashville. So it's more. I've done both myself.
Music is therapeutic. It's very healing, and some songs like that are generational.
Yep.
Well, you've had quite the successful career. I mean, 12 top 20 singles. One of the most iconic people in country music, and it's truly been an honor to talk to you today. So thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with me with Y'all 106.7.